Hey guys, what's up? This is Dingo Crikey here with another commentary video, this time discussing a Transformers Robots in Disguise topic. If you are interested in more news and commentary on Transformers Robots in Disguise, Transformers 5, or the Transformers Generations toy line, then you could check out my playlist and channel where you can also find over 20 of my Transformers stop motion videos, some of which are previewed here. But this video is going to be a discussion of the character Steeljaw leading the Decepticons in Transformers Robots in Disguise. This certainly isn't news at this point. It's been out for a while that Steeljaw is going to be leading the Decepticons in the series. Nevertheless, it's something that I've wanted to discuss as it is significant to the series as a whole, but also it's pretty significant to Transformers as a whole, as it will be the first time in a major Western Transformers cartoon, unless you include Rescue Bots, that Megatron will not be leading the Decepticons. So, let's get started. What do we really know about Steeljaw at this point? Not a whole lot. The name has been used for Transformers characters in the past. He was originally a minion of Blaster, I believe, and then we just seen him in Age of Extinction, or at least we had some kind of cyber organic wolves that have been labeled Steeljaw. But now we actually have a character, a very significant character being named Steeljaw. Despite that, we don't really know a whole lot about his character. Maybe some of you who might be watching this from different countries know if you've seen those episodes already, but most of us don't really know much about him. My initial impressions were kind of like, oh, he's going to be sort of a brutish character. Before I even knew he was going to be the leader of the Decepticons, that's just what I figured. Even when I found out about his role, I kind of figured, well, this show isn't going to, like, make a super strategical or intelligent main villain because it's more of a kid-focused show, so they'll probably have some kind of silly, dumb guy leading the Decepticons. But it doesn't really seem like that from what we've seen of him in the show. If you haven't seen the clip, you should go check out Transformers Robots in Disguise Meet the Decepticons, and it gives us a little bit of a taste of Steeljaw's character, and he actually doesn't seem like a bad character. He seems a lot more sneaky and sly than we thought he would be, but not necessarily like Starscream. He seems like he's going to be sort of a thinker and manipulator. We can see him saying something to one of the Decepticon characters, like, if you want to remain free, then you'll follow me. And we also hear him saying something about savoring the daylight because he's going to cause darkness, or something kind of silly like that. But either way, he isn't like all boisterous or loud. Like, his appearance might make you think maybe they're playing more off of that wolfiness to his character, you know, kind of the traditions or the stereotypes about sly and smart wolves. So I think that seems pretty cool. We also know that he is going to be voiced by Troy Baker, who is a huge voice actor today. I mean, I don't really play many video games, but if you look at the list of roles he had, it's just, man, he's done so many voices for different video games, but also I believe he's done voices for different animation, and I don't know if he's been in any movies, also does music, but basically this is a pretty well-rounded guy. I know him best for his roles in certain animes that I've seen. He does a voice for different characters in both Full Metal Alchemist series. In the first one, he voiced a character called Frank Archer, and then in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, he voices the second Greed, and those characters are both pretty different characters. I mean, their motivations, their personas, the way they act. I think he did a great job voicing Greed's character in Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Absolutely loved the voice, loved the character, and then he also voices a character in Soul Eater called Excalibur. Not a big fan of that anime, but that is one of the few characters I like. So I think Steeljaw's in pretty good shape. I mean, Troy Baker seems to be able to pull off a lot of different characters effectively. I don't always recognize his voice and things. I actually didn't immediately recognize him as Steeljaw, but I knew I really liked the voice, and then I went and looked it up, and to no surprise, it was Troy Baker. So I think he's in good hands. He can really bring a lot of life to the characters. He has a really cool voice. So Steeljaw has that going for him. Overall, I think the character has a lot of potential, even if you think Robots in Disguise is just going to be a silly kids cartoon, and it probably is going to be in some ways, but it looks like the show is set up with a pretty good character for the villain. Now, there's obviously a lot of controversy about him being the main antagonist. Not only that, but the leader of the Decepticons. Obviously, in the past, we've been pretty much used to either Megatron leading the Decepticons or Starscream leading at some point in the series. But ultimately, it's always been Megatron. Sometimes there's another main bad guy in the end of the series, but we're used to Megatron as the main personal antagonist. So, how do I feel about this? I'm actually very, very excited that we won't see Megatron or Starscream leading the Decepticons. Now, those of you who have watched my previous videos probably know I'm usually supportive of them taking Transformers in different directions, not always doing the same thing. I get bored of it a lot, and I know a lot of people are kind of in that place. But it really isn't only that with this show, it's also because it's a conclusion of Transformers Prime. Even more so, we don't want to see the same thing just happening over and over again. It would feel kind of unnatural if Megatron just came back because people said he had to be the main bad guy. I'm not going to spoil anything of what happened in the end of Prime for those of you who might have not seen it, but I was pretty happy with the way they dealt with Megatron's character in the end, and I don't think it would work well if he was brought in as a villain. I also have the opinion that Megatron is kind of a boring villain. There's not too many places you can take him at this point, especially in the Prime rendition of Megatron. Starscream, on the other hand, I think he was left open-ended enough at the end of Prime that I would like to see him return in the series. But not necessarily as leader of the Decepticons. I would kind of prefer them doing something like they did with Starscream in Beast Wars, only a little bit of a bigger role than that. Maybe he tries to take over the new Decepticons, or I think it would be even cooler if he had his own group of Transformers, maybe the Seekers, except they're more than just Skywarp and Thundercracker. He has a whole brigade of jet Transformers. I think that would be pretty cool, and even get like a 3-faction war going. Maybe Starscream can be the villain for a certain arc. Maybe recruit some of the escaped prisoner Decepticons and become so much of a problem that Steeljaw and Bumblebee's Autobots kind of have to work together to defeat Starscream. Basically, if they're going to bring Starscream into the show, I would prefer them to do something like that, as opposed to just making him take over, or the exact same thing, the exact same role as we've seen him having in Prime. I do want to see him be the same character, have the similar traits, or else we would end up with something like Energon, as it was supposed to be a sequel to Armada, and just totally screwed up all of the characters. But I would like to see them take him in some different directions. But basically, in regards to Steeljaw leading, I'm pretty positive about it. I think there are a lot of cool things they could do with him. One thing, he has a good voice actor, so that's always cool. He doesn't just seem like a dumb brute like we initially thought he would be, and he's something different, which is always nice to see, at least in my opinion, if they do it well. I mean, a lot of these things aren't accepted at first, but who knows, 10 years down the road, maybe he'll be like a really revered Transformers character. That kind of depends on how they handle him, I guess. I mean, remember, Beast Wars wasn't really accepted well at first, and now it's like the holy grail of Transformers for a lot of people. So I guess we'll have to see. Now, what do I think the series will do? That's still up in the air, because for one, we haven't, at least most of us, unless you live in another country where they might have aired the episodes by now. I'm not for sure if they have, but most of us don't really have an idea of what the series is actually going to be like, other than some of the footage we've seen, the interviews with the voice actors, the creators, etc. So it's hard to know what direction the series is going to go in. I could kind of predict the series doing one of those, like, first half of the show is 1 to 26 episodes, and then the second half of the show, which I guess will be 27 to 52, or maybe 27 to 30 something if they're going to make it shorter, is kind of a different story than the first half. And maybe in that second half they would be dealing with some more classic Transformers characters like Megatron, or maybe Steeljaw will be killed at the end of the first half, and they'll kind of be like, well, now we're dealing with the big bad guys, and Steeljaw will just be treated as kind of like a Kickstarter villain, which I think would be a shame. I think if they're going in that direction, it will become predictable at a certain point that, okay, the first half is just kind of the Autobots training, and Steeljaw is this weak villain, you know, that they've got to basically get good against to fight the big baddies. And I think they've already kind of made an outline like that for the series. I do believe they said that in the second half of the show we'll see appearances of more Transformers Prime characters, which does sound pretty cool, unless the show becomes all about nostalgia effect, and then it would probably really go downhill. I could also see them just keeping Steeljaw around as the villain and the show never really getting that big or anything like that. But obviously there's not a whole lot more I can say about predictions here. I mean, I do think Steeljaw will at least last up until episode 26, even if he is going to be killed off, but I could definitely see that happening, him being killed off at the end of episode 26, and then season 2 focus on a bigger arc, maybe kind of get a little bit darker from the tone of the first season, and focus on villains such as Megatron, or maybe just some new Decepticons who are supposed to be more intimidating, or I could just see them keeping Steeljaw as the villain for the whole show. I don't see him becoming as dynamic as someone like Megatron, as, you know, getting all these power-ups through Dark Energon, and them going through all the Unicron stuff, things like that. But I guess in that area, we'll just have to wait and see. Anyways, that's about all I have to say about this topic. You guys can leave your thoughts in the comment section below. What is your opinion of Steeljaw being the leader of the Decepticons? Do you think it's really cool to see another leader of the Decepticons? Or maybe you really don't like this because you prefer Megatron or Starscream always being the big baddie? Or maybe it isn't really that, you just don't like the looks of Steeljaw as a leader. Maybe there's some other character you would like leading the Decepticons. Do you think he'll be the villain through the whole series? He'll get killed off at the end of the first half, second half kind of takes a different direction, something like that. What are your opinions of his character so far, the voice actor, everything we've seen? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below, along with any topic suggestions you might have for more Transformers Robots in Disguise videos, Transformers 5 videos, or topics on the Transformers Generations toy line. If you haven't already done so and you're interested, you can go to my channel and check out my other Transformers commentary videos. I have commentary on a broad variety of Transformers topics, so feel free to check that out along with my Transformers stop motion videos. That's it for this one. Stay tuned. Have a good one, guys.